In this video, I'm going to answer questions about metatarsalgia or pain that you feel in the ball of your foot that has been asked in reaction to my other video that I did about it, where I discussed in detail what causes it and what treatments work well and how to apply the treatments for metatarsalgia. So if you want to watch that video, I'll put a link to that in the description of this one. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maryke. I'm one of the physiotherapists from sportsinjuryphysio.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment of your injuries. Have a look at the description of this video if you want a link to our website. So the first question relates to how can you tell if the activities you're currently doing is okay for you to do? Because the person who wrote in said that they are currently cycling and swimming, running in the pool, riding a bike, even rock climbing, and they don't feel pain while they're doing it, but they're not sure if it's okay or not. So to understand how to interpret that, because I struggled with this myself as well, one has to understand how your body creates pain. Now, if you've had metatarsalgia for a while, you can know that, or you will know that this condition can really drag on. When I had it, it lasted for about a year before I could properly get back to my things again. I'll tell you my journey at the end of this. I'll lay it all out for you as well. And what happens is you start obsessing about every single thing that you feel in your foot. And every time you feel a little ping there, you think, is it worse? It's going to get worse. Am I going to be worse for tomorrow? Have I now delayed my rehab? But it doesn't work that way. So if we think about pain, when we get an injury, your body creates pain to warn you about that part and so that you can look after it, to protect it. But what we used to think was that as your injury heals, your pain naturally goes away, and that the amount of pain you feel equaled the severity of the injury. Now we know, because we've got MRI scans or all these fancy things, that actually sometimes injuries can have no pain or excessive pain compared to the damage that there is. Sometimes the injury can even heal, but the pain remains. So pain isn't a good indication of the severity of the injury or whether it's still there. How does this bit work? Well, it's because you don't actually have pain receptors in your foot or any part of your body. What you do have is you have sensors that tell your brain about the amount of pressure, the temperature, the chemicals in that area, stretch, all of those things. And they're forever sending messages up to the brain. Now, the brain ignores most of these messages because it's at a level that it doesn't think that it's dangerous. So for instance, if I squeeze my thumb really hard, I can feel I'm applying strong pressure, but it's not painful because the brain goes, yeah, that's not dangerous for us. We don't care about it. You can press it as much as you like. But now, if I whack my finger with a hammer and I injure it, it's super painful, and because the brain goes, that amount causes damage, that's a problem for us. But now, 2 days later, I just press it gently. It really super hurts still. Now, you can agree that that gentle pressure is not actually injuring it. But what it is doing is it's causing pressure in an area where the brain is very sensitive and worried about at the moment. So it goes, hoi, what are you doing there? We can cause that injury to be worse. Stop doing that. So it's causing pain long before there's new injury happening. So it's the brain's job to decide how it interprets all of these signals. And what we now know from the research also is that the brain doesn't have a set level for what is safe, what is not. It uses your past experiences, and it uses what the impact might be, what it thinks the impact might be on your future. So for instance, if I have an injury that I think, oh man, this is going to stop me from running an important race, or if this carries on, I might lose my job. Immediately, that can actually increase the amount of pain we feel because the brain interprets it as a super dangerous thing for my survival, although it's just my enjoyment or even my finances. But then if I go into the doctor's office and the doctor tells me, oh no, this is actually not what you thought it was. It's something simple. It will be better in 2 weeks. What they've shown with studies is when those people come out of the doctor's office, their pain has already decreased by at least 50%. And you can agree with me, there's no healing that took place in the doctor's office. It's literally your alarm system that just went, oh, okay, we don't have to worry that much. And the pain or the threat has decreased. So I am not by any means saying that all pain is in the mind. I'm just saying that the amount of pain is decided by the brain, or the severity of the pain. And when you've got ongoing conditions like metatarsalgia, your brain can play a big part in making you too afraid to move and too afraid to do things. So what the research is showing for these type of conditions, usually having a bit of pain or discomfort while you're doing activity is absolutely fine. Because remember, the brain's trying to protect you before more injury happens. So it's like that analogy of pressing the thumb after I've hit it with a hammer. It really hurts, but it's not causing damage because the brain's creating the pain before it gets to the level where it actually produces damage. So the research shows that if you do activities and you experience a little bit of discomfort, that's just the brain telling you, I want you to be careful here. It's not telling you that you're actually causing damage. So if you keep the pain levels or the discomfort you feel below about a 3 out of 10, and you don't see a day-on-day increase in that pain, so by tomorrow morning your pain is back to normal, the discomfort hasn't increased, then usually that's okay. So to get back to this question, if you're riding your bike, they can feel it a bit while they're cycling. To be honest, while I was cycling, I could also feel my foot a little bit. That's usually okay if the next morning is not more painful and later in the day it feels fine. It's just while you're doing it that you feel it a little bit. Rock climbing, you're telling me that you feel nothing while you're climbing and it actually feels good afterwards, but you're worried because it places stress on the foot? Don't worry about it. The pain is telling you that it's okay because you're not feeling worse the next day. So go on with it if that's the case. Pool running, that can be really good. The only thing with pool running is I find if you run in the pool that you actually push yourself away in the water. That can sometimes irritate it. It doesn't have to, but it can sometimes irritate it. Whereas if you just run in the deep water without actually making contact with the floor, that can sometimes be a better option. But yeah, your cross-training activities sounds absolutely fine to me. Then, the question is often, should you change the way that you walk? Should you walk in a different way to not put so much stress on the ball of your foot? No, because it's not possible to control your walking with your mind the whole time. Walking is a super complex movement and our brain calculates the whole time different little things about what's the perfect optimal step to give in different situations. Just walk in a normal way. If you're going to try and control it too heavily, you're going to cause overuse injuries in other parts. This injury didn't happen because you had a faulty gait. It most of the time happens because you just change something and how much pressure is through that foot too quickly. And I think in your case, you mentioned later on that you think it may have been about barefoot shoes and things like that. That would have been the cause. So don't go messing with things that wasn't part of the cause. What's my opinion about barefoot running or walking? Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Well, if you have got metatarsalgia, I would advise that you don't go into minimalist shoes or barefoot walking because actually that has been shown to cause metatarsalgia because it increases the pressure on the ball of the foot. So what the research is showing is when you go into minimalist shoes that doesn't have a heel and has a flatter sole, it takes the strain away from your knees, but it actually places it more into the Achilles tendon as well as the ball of the foot. So you're more predisposed to stress fractures and metatarsalgia in the ball of the foot then. So I wouldn't use it if you've already got this condition. Can calf and Achilles stretches help to prevent metatarsalgia? Not really. In most cases, it is not because things are excessively tight that it's caused. It's caused because of overload, because of the shoes you wore or the type of activity you did or the change that was just too quick that you made between those the types of activities. There are some cases where it might be an issue that it's over tight, but it's usually people who have changes in muscle tone like cerebral palsy or something like that that can cause it, or if you've got severe arthritis or something in your foot that causes a change with that. But in most adults that doesn't have any issue with that, it's not really going to prevent it. How about exercises for the feet? Can it make it worse? Will it help it? The only exercise that I would be careful with is when you're doing calf raises. So going up and down on your toes especially during the early stages. I'm currently doing calf raises, and I did them several months into my recovery. I could start them, but I had to start very low load because that really loads the metatarsal heads. So whether you can do them or not will depend on where you are in your recovery. But just use the pain response again and check how you feel the next day or several days later. If you have a feeling that an exercise is making stuff worse, leave it out, check how it feels without it, put it back in, check how it feels with it. That will tell you whether it's helping or not. Then something people often ask me is, will they get better and how long did it take me to recover? So I went and looked back at my Garmin stats actually to see how exactly did this work, because it was 3 years ago that I had it. And what it showed was that during the early stages of my recovery, I was really limited to just very short walks and not too much time on my feet. And then as I recovered about 2-3 months later, I could start little run walks. And I kind of did run walks on and off up until the December. So we're looking at, it started around the April time, I think. And then December, I kind of overdid it a bit. And I thought, you know what, you're being silly. Just concentrate on cycling and swimming and walking. Don't do any more running. So I left for 3 months. And then when I started again, so about a year after it first started, then I could start with run walks and consistently increase that until I got to 5Ks by the end of that year. And that was fine. So it took me a proper year and a half to get to running 5Ks where I wasn't actually thinking about it. And also at the beginning, I had to keep it really slow because the faster you run, the more you push off. I also had to avoid really going up hills, because when you go uphill, you go on your toes more and you run up a hill on your toes more. These days, you'll also be happy to know that I am pretty much wearing the shoes that I used to wear most of the time. So I can walk barefoot on tiled floors now, but if I do it excessively or too much, then I can feel some sensitivity coming back. How do I fix it? I literally just wear my lovely blue plastic, very dirty Birkenstocks inside the house for a couple of days, and boom, then the sensitivity goes away. Most of the time, I walk in these. I can walk about 4 kilometers in these without any issue. They're pretty thin at the moment because they're old and I haven't been in a country with big enough feet that I can actually get new ones. So most of the time I'm happy in these. If I do longer walks, I do wear, or I go for my runs, I wear my Hokas. I absolutely swear by these. They're really comfortable. If I annoy my foot because I walk too much in my flip-flops, especially on gravel where there's stones, then sometimes my foot can get a bit sensitive again. And I just wear these for short walks then as well for a couple of days, and boom, sensitivity goes away. So to answer the question about whether you'll always have an issue with it, I don't know. My feet are just inclined to it. I've known for years that I had a grumbling thing there. It was only 3 years ago that I properly overdid it and flared up properly. So for me, I think it's always going to be an issue if I go too wild. But because I know what footwear to wear and what situations to adapt, it's not limiting me at all. I can now do hikes of 14 kilometers, just haven't done longer ones because I haven't had to. I'm mostly running between 2 and 3 miles. That's not because of my feet. That's because I'm being lazy at the moment. I can walk miles and miles barefoot on the beach, which I couldn't do it at one point. And I remember even when it was really painful, just jumping in the ocean, that was hurting it and causing it to be worse. And now I can do all those things without even thinking about it. So the journey was that first year was the worst. This next 6 months was annoying because it kept on coming back if I wanted to push too hard. But then the following 6 months, so getting up to 2 years, it really, really got to the point where I didn't think about it much. And this last year, I really didn't think about it much. It's just every now and again that I get a ting from it. And I won't be surprised if in 2 years from now, I'm sitting here going, I can't remember that I had it. Because that's how the body works. These things are sometimes slow in healing, but they do eventually heal. Excellent. It feels a bit like that was just a bit of a rambling from my side. Apologies if it's longer than what I thought it would be. Remember, if you need help with an injury, you're welcome to consult one of the team via video call, and the link to the website is in the description of this video. Take care.